Old age is not lonely because there's no one around. It's lonely because no one truly understands the wounds that don't have names. There is a silence that settles around us as the years go by. It's not the kind of silence that brings peace. It's the kind that echoes the thoughts we never say out loud. The regrets, the questions, the quiet moments at dawn when we ask ourselves, was it all worth it? As we move through life, we carry not just memories, but habits, patterns of thinking and behaving that no longer serve us. And at 70, these habits can become prisons. There are things we do every day without thinking that gently, almost kindly, steal away the life we have left. And we never question them because they've been with us so long. They've become part of who we think we are. But today, I want to speak to your soul. Not the one you show the world. The one that still feels the trembling thrill of being alive. Because at 70, life doesn't end. It whispers, offering one last chance to be fully awake. The first thing we should never do at 70, and yet almost all of us do, is compare. We compare our bodies to the ones we used to have, our lives to the neighbors next door, our children to the dreams we once held. Comparison is the thief of joy, and in old age, it becomes especially cruel. We look at the wrinkles, the slower steps, the forgotten words, and we feel less. But here's the truth no one tells us. Aging is not a loss. It's a becoming. Every line on your face is a sentence in your story. Every gray hair is a ribbon of survival. When we stop comparing, we start celebrating. Still, day after day, the mirror becomes a battleground, and in that quiet war with ourselves, we lose more than confidence. We lose connection. We stop going out. We stop smiling at strangers. We hide, because we believe the world no longer wants to see us. But the world is starving for wisdom, and no one has more of it than you. The pain you've endured, the love you've given, the times you got back up when you could have stayed down. These are not just memories, they are medicine, and someone out there needs your story. The second thing we should never do at this age is silence our needs. We grew up in times that taught us to be grateful, to ask for little, to endure quiet. But now, in this final act, it is your time to speak. If you are lonely, say it. If you are hurting, admit it. If you need someone, reach out. The saddest thing is not dying. It's living a life unspoken, and too many elderly people go through their days pretending they're fine, pretending they don't mind eating alone, pretending they aren't afraid of being forgotten. But you deserve more than silence. You deserve to be seen, to be held, to be loved, loudly. And no, it's not too late. It is never too late to start saying, I need you. There's a kind of pride that creeps in with age, the kind that tells us asking for help is weakness. But that pride is a liar. True strength is not in pretending we are made of stone. It's in the softness to say, today I need someone to walk with me. The third mistake so many make is holding on to bitterness, to old roles, to things that no longer nourish the soul. We keep souvenirs of past hurts. We replay conversations from decades ago. We keep score. But every time you rehearse that pain, you give it breath again. And at 70, breath is precious. Forgiveness is not a gift to the other. It is freedom for yourself. Let go, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You do not need to carry every hurt to the grave. You are allowed to travel light. You are allowed to feel free. And it's not just emotional things we hold on to. We hold on to objects, routines, identities that once defined us. But there is power in becoming new, in releasing the need to be who you were, and embracing the possibility of who you can still be. You are not just the grandmother, not just the veteran, not just the retired teacher. You are a soul still unfolding. And yes, I know, change is frightening, But stagnation is deadly, which brings me to the fourth habit. Stopping. So many people stop living before life stops them. They stop learning, stop dancing, stop laughing. They let their curiosity shrink until every day is a repetition of the one before. But the brain is a garden. It blooms when you feed it wonder. You can still read a new book, still learn a new language, still fall in love, still sing off-key and not care, still travel, even if it's just down the street to somewhere you've never noticed before. Motion is life. The moment you stop moving, physically, emotionally, mentally, the world starts to pass you by, and you were never meant to be left behind. You were meant to inspire. Finally, the fifth, the most heartbreaking mistake, is believing the best is behind you. That joy is a memory. That meaning was something you had in your career, your children, your youth. But purpose is not a place, it's a present, and it walks with you as long as you are willing to take its hand. You are not here just to pass the time. You are here to leave something behind. A smile, a lesson, a moment of warmth. You are not invisible. You are not done. The breath in your lungs is proof. You are still becoming. And now, as I reach the end of this whisper to your soul, I want you to know, age is not the end of your story. It is the deepening of it. Like the final chapters of a novel, it carries the weight of everything that came before, and the possibility of how it might all come together. So if you do anything today, let it be this. Live with all the colors you once thought were only for the young. Laugh loudly, love recklessly, forgive freely, and do not wait for someone to tell you it's okay. You have waited long enough. You are the author of these final pages. Make them unforgettable. Because the truth is, the world still needs you, and there is still time. There's something sacred about the quiet of early morning, before the world stirs, before the noise comes in. It's in those fragile moments that life speaks the loudest. But too many of us rush past it, even at 70, even with time finally on our side. We wake up and think the day is already written, that nothing new waits on the other side of our coffee cup. We assume routine equals safety. But there is a quiet danger in routine. It can numb the spirit while pretending to protect it. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Not something big, not something loud, but something that made your heart lean forward. Something that reminded you you're still capable of wonder. Because here's the truth we often forget. Safety isn't the opposite of risk. It's the enemy of growth. And if we stop growing, we start fading, even while we're still breathing. This world has convinced too many elderly souls that shrinking is the natural shape of aging, that they should speak less, dream less, risk less, that they should learn to want less. But that's not aging. That's disappearing. And you were not born to vanish. You were born to evolve. The human spirit doesn't retire. It only grows quieter if we stop feeding it. And so we must break the trance. That gentle hypnosis that whispers, "This is just how it is." No, this is not how it has to be. Every single morning is an unwritten canvas. The brush is still in your hand. You don't need permission to create something different. You want to start painting. Take a walk somewhere new. Sit under a tree you've never noticed. Call someone you've lost touch with. Write a letter to your younger self. These aren't distractions. These are acts of resistance against the lie that the future belongs only to the young. There's a strange myth that circulates quietly in our culture, that meaning must come from productivity. That if you're not earning, achieving, fixing something, then you've lost your place in the story. But that's a lie. Meaning does not come from motion. It comes from present. The most meaningful moments in your life weren't when you were being the busiest. They were the times your heart was wide open, holding a newborn grandchild, watching the sun set in silence, feeling someone squeeze your hand without saying a word. These are the riches of age. Not the losses, but they can only be felt when we slow down, not into stillness, but into awareness. You have more wisdom than most books, more stories than any library, but are you still listening to yourself, or have you forgotten that you are still allowed to be surprised by life? There's a quiet enemy that creeps into the heart with age. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Doubt. Doubt that you matter anymore. Doubt that your voice still has weight. Doubt that your presence still lights up a room. But here's what doubt never understands. You are a lighthouse, not a candle. You do not flicker when others walk away. You do not lose your purpose just because fewer ships are passing by. You shine because you are. And while we're speaking of ships, it's time to speak of friendships. So many elders carry the silent ache of disconnection. Children grown, friends gone. The rhythm of life softens, and the spaces between conversations grow longer. And then something devastating happens. We convince ourselves that no one wants to hear from us, that reaching out would be a burden, that initiating connection would make us seem needy. But let me say this with all the love in the world. Loneliness is not your fault, but staying in it is not your fate. You are allowed to call first. You are allowed to say, I miss you. You are allowed to knock on a neighbor's door, join a class, walk into a room full of strangers with a heart open enough to say, hello. The irony is that while the elderly think the young don't want them, the young are desperate for anchors, for stories, for perspective. But someone has to bridge the space between generations. Why not you? You have the power to make someone younger feel seen, not by advice, but by presence. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is in simply listening, gently, without trying to You can be the safe harbor that someone else is silently searching for. And if your days feel too quiet, let them be filled with intention, because stillness with purpose is peace. But stillness without direction can become despair. Start each morning not with a to-do list, but a to-feel list. What will you feel today? Gratitude, curiosity, connection, or you're not done. You are not too late. You are not too tired. You are standing at the doorway of what could be the most beautiful chapter of your story. The one where you no longer strive to be anyone else, but finally rest into the truth of who you've always been. Because that is what this stage of life is for. Not for fading, but for revealing. To come home to yourself, to offer your presence as a gift, to stop chasing and start savoring. And so if the world moves too fast for your legs, let it. You do not need to run. You only need to stand in your truth. The ones who matter will find their way to you. Or better yet, you will walk toward them. Not in haste, but in wholeness. And if you've made it this far, if your heart is still beating with even the faintest curiosity, the smallest longing for something more, then I'll tell you a secret. The rest of your life is still unwritten. Yes, even now, even here, even at 70, even after all the loss, even after all the change, because the soul does not keep time like the body does. It counts meaning, not minutes, and it is still counting. There's a common phrase we hear too often, I'm too old for that. It slips from our lips without resistance, a joke, a deflection, a shield. But beneath it lies something quieter, a surrender. I'm too old to change. I'm too old to start again. I'm too old to dream. And yet, the soul never agrees. The soul knows no expiration date. It doesn't care how many birthdays you've counted, it only cares whether you're still listening. Because the truth is, most people don't stop living when their body gets tired. They stop living when they believe there's nothing worth reaching for anymore. But what if there is? What if the richest part of your story has yet to be written, not despite your age, but because of it? Every year you've lived has prepared you for this moment. Every tear, every triumph, every silent night, and every burst of laughter, they've all carved depth into your being. And now, you carry something the world needs more than ever: perspective. In a world addicted to speed, your presence teaches patience. In a culture obsessed with youth, your existence proves the beauty of endurance. And in a society that often mistakes noise for meaning, your quiet wisdom is a lighthouse. But none of that matters if you don't believe it. Belief is not something that arrives at your doorstep, it's something you must choose. Each day, even now, you must choose to believe that you are still worthy of discovery, by yourself, by others, by life itself. And if you're waiting for someone to come tell you it's okay to begin again, let this be that moment. You have permission, not from society, not from your past, but from your breath. Because you are still here, and being here is enough. Now, let's talk about one of the most overlooked thieves of joy in later life. Regret. Regret is a ghost. It doesn't live in the present, it haunts it. And the older we get, the more doorways it finds into our minds. The missed chances, the words left unsaid, the people we didn't hold on to, the paths we didn't take. But here's something regret doesn't want you to know. You are not that person anymore. The person who made those mistakes no longer exists. You have evolved. You have learned. You have lived. You do not need to carry the weight of someone you used to be. You are allowed to lay that burden down. You are allowed to look at your past, not with shame, but with softness. Say to it, you did the best you could with what you knew. And then, walk forward. Forgiveness is not forgetting it, it's remembering without chains. It's saying, yes, that happened, but I will not let it define the rest of my story. Because the rest of your story matters, and it deserves to be written in a font of freedom, not fear. And yes, I know fear. It changes shape as we grow older. In youth, it's fear of failure. In adulthood, fear of disappointment. But in old age, fear becomes silence. It hides in the fear of being a burden, of being irrelevant, of being left behind. But let me offer a different perspective. You are not a burden. You are a bridge between generations, between past and future, between what once was and what still could be. Your presence holds memories that no one else carries. Your voice, when shared, becomes a thread in someone else's tapestry. Even your stillness has value, because it invites others to pause. The world rushes forward too quickly, but you remind it to breathe. There is a kind of sacredness in the elderly that the world too often forgets, not because it is no longer there, but because we've stopped reflecting it back. So reflect it. Look in the mirror, not to judge the lines on your face, but to see the stories they carry. Do not hide from your reflection. Greet it. Say, there you are. I remember you. You are not a stranger to yourself. You are a companion who stayed the course through every season, through loneliness, through joy, through loss, through laughter. You've walked through storms and found the strength to dry your own tears. You've known hunger, not just for food, but for meaning, for connection, for love that doesn't leave when things get hard. And you've survived, and that matters. It matters more than anyone may ever tell you, but I'm telling you now, you matter. Every morning you open your eyes, you are a miracle, a testimony to endurance, a walking, breathing legacy. But what will that legacy be? Not in what you leave behind, but in what you offer now. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a smile, maybe it's the courage to tell your story, even if your voice trembles. Maybe it's choosing to plant a seed you may never see bloom. Because that is what elders do. They plant trees whose shade will fall on someone else. That is your power. That is your honor. That is your role. And you don't have to be perfect to fulfill it. You just have to be present. So don't give up. Don't dim your light, because others stopped looking. Shine anyway. Speak anyway. Love anyway. Because you are not here by accident. You are still breathing. because your story isn't over, and maybe, just maybe, the most beautiful chapter is still waiting to be written. There's a kind of magic that happens when a person refuses to disappear, when instead of retreating quietly into the background of life, they choose to step forward, not with noise, but with presence. The presence of someone who has loved deeply, lost honestly, and endured silently. At 70, the world may no longer chase after you. That's true. It may not applaud your choices or beg for your opinion. But that doesn't mean it no longer needs you. It just means the role has shifted from performer to teacher, from participant to guide. The light you carry isn't meant to dazzle anymore. It's meant to warm. And in a world so cold with hurry, that warmth is medicine. But here's what no one tells you. Medicine must first be given to yourself. So many elders are kind to everyone but themselves. They speak gently to their grandchildren, forgive their children, smile at strangers, but when they look in the mirror they offer no such grace. The voice inside their own head is not a friend, but a critic, a relentless reminder of what could have been done better, of time wasted, of dreams unlived. But today, you can rewrite that voice. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love deeply. Say, you've done well. Say, you've survived things no one saw. Say, you still matter. There is no expiration date on self-compassion. There is no deadline for becoming who you might have been. There is only now, this breath, this moment, this heartbeat, and what you do with it is entirely up to you. Too often, the elderly are taught to live in reflection, to sit by the window and stare back, but the window also shows the horizon, and what's ahead is not just time, but possibility. What if you dared to imagine again, not to prove anything, not to impress, but simply to feel alive? To dream doesn't require youth, it requires courage. You can still build something with your hand, still write something with your words, still love someone with your whole heart, still say something that shakes someone's soul, still heal something inside you that's been aching since childhood. Because aging does not mean you are done growing. It means you've finally arrived at the wisdom that knows how to grow in the right direction. And one of the most powerful directions you can grow in is inward. Inward to forgiveness. Inward to peace. Inward to letting go of all the noise and pressure that you no longer need to carry. You don't need to remember everything. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You've earned the right to rest, not from life, but into life. To lay your head on the pillow at night and say, I was here. I gave what I could. I loved with what I had. And I'm still learning. That, my friend, is a life well lived. Not one without pain, but one that refuses to let pain be the final word. Not one without regret, but one that uses regret as a compass, not an anchor. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are right on time for this moment, this lesson, this breath. And if today feels hard, if the bones ache and the room feels too quiet and the phone doesn't ring, know this: you are not forgotten. The universe has not misplaced you. You are part of something vast and sacred. Your story ripples through generations, even if you can't see it. The kindness you gave decades ago still lives in someone's heart. The wisdom you shared in a passing sentence is still echoing in someone's choices. You have done more than you know. You have shaped more than you remember, and you are still shaping, still becoming, still necessary, still holy. So rise, not with speed, but with softness, not with urgency, but with intention. Drink your tea slowly. Watch the light change across the floor. Call someone and say, I was thinking of you. Write a sentence that your great-grandchild might one day find and whisper, This was them. This was who they were. You don't have to be grand to be great. You just have to be true. And if the world forgets to remind you, I will say it here again. You are enough. Exactly as you are. Exactly where you are. Right now. There's a profound kind of beauty in aging that only those who live it truly understand. It's not in the soft silver of your hair or the careful steps you take. It's in the clarity, in the way you begin to see through things that used to trouble you, in the peace that slowly replaces the pressure. You begin to understand that not every battle needs fighting, that not every opinion needs defending, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply smile and let go. Because time has taught you something that no book, no teacher, no success ever could. What truly matters, and what truly matters, is not how much you have or what you've done. It's how you've loved, who you've lifted, what kind of silence you've held space for, the way you showed up when no one was watching, the tiny moments of grace that no one else even saw. That is legacy. Not the trophies, not the titles, but the tenderness. So many elderly people worry about being forgotten. They fear becoming invisible, but they don't realize you do not disappear when others stop looking. You disappear only when you stop believing you are still here for a reason. And you are. You are here to remind the world what it means to endure. To teach us how to age, not with bitterness but with bravery. Not with resentment but with reverence. Your presence is not an accident. It is a continuation of something sacred. Even the way you sit quietly in a room carries a weight, a calm, a knowing, a steadiness this world desperately needs. So many young people are afraid of failure, of being alone, of being seen. But you are living proof that we survive those things, that we get through heartbreak, that we rise after loss, that we adapt, that we love again, that life goes on. And so do we. That is the gift you carry, and it is not small. But to give that gift fully, you must do one thing. Stay open. Stay open to laughter. Stay open to tears. Stay open to the possibility that your best story is still unfolding. Because the moment you close your heart, not just to pain but to joy, you begin to vanish, and this world cannot afford to lose someone like you. So laugh again, loudly. Even if your laugh has changed. Dance again, even if your body moves differently now. Hope again, even if your heart has been broken. Love again, especially if you're afraid to. Because you have earned that right, the right to feel deeply, to live freely, to rest without guilt and rise without apology. And if you've made mistakes, good, that means you've lived. You've taken risks, you've dared to care, you've been human. But now, in this season of life, you get to choose differently, not perfectly, differently. You get to choose peace instead of pride, presence instead of performance, connection instead of control. You get to be soft in a world that taught you to be hard. You get to be slow in a world that worships hurry. You get to be wise in a world that's always chasing noise. And if you wonder whether that matters, it does, more than you'll ever know. Because while the world may no longer clap for you, somewhere, quietly, a life is changing because of you. A grandchild remembers your voice. A neighbor recalls your kindness. A stranger carries your smile. You don't need to do anything grand to be great. You only need to be real, to show up, to say, this is me, still growing, still trying, still here. Because at the end of all things, what remains is not what we achieved, but who we became in the process. And if you've become someone who can sit in the quiet and say, I love the life I've lived, not because it was perfect, but because I kept showing up, then you are already victorious. So breathe deep, let go of the timeline, Let go of the lies. Let go of the illusion that you're behind. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, and there is more life left in you than you think. More stories, more moments, more laughter, more awe. Let the years ahead be not a descent but a rising into who you were always meant to be before the world told you who you had to be. This chapter is yours. And now, here you are. After all the years, all the changes, all the faces that came and went, you are still here. You've walked through fire and found the strength to forgive. You've stood in silence when words were too heavy to carry. You've rebuilt your life more times than you can count, and maybe you didn't do it loudly. Maybe the world never stopped to notice, but you noticed. You know, you remember, and that matters more than anything else. Because life was never about being seen. It was always about being true. And you have been true. True to the people you've loved, true to the values you kept, even when no one was watching. True to yourself, even when that truth was inconvenient or uncomfortable. That is real success. That is real strength. That is what it means to live well. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but fully. So as you stand in the doorway of what may be the final season of your life, do not ask, "What do I still have to prove?" Ask instead, "What do I still have to give?" Give your presence, give your perspective, give your blessing to those who walk behind you. Show them what it looks like to grow older without growing colder. Show them that softness is not weakness, that slowing down is not giving up, that grace is a choice, and you've chosen it over and over again. When you wake up tomorrow, I want you to remember this. You are not in life's waiting room. You are not in life's leftover hours. You are in your prime, the prime of knowing what matters most, the prime of peace, the prime of becoming who you were always meant to be, without apology. Because the truth is, most people live their entire lives searching for something. And you, in this chapter, you are finally holding it. Wisdom, stillness, gratitude. So take your coffee slowly, watch the morning light, feel the pulse of life in your chest. Call someone and say, "I'm glad we're still here." Tell your story, laugh until your sides hurt. Cry if you need to. But never forget this. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are the soul that rose every time the world tried to keep you down. You are the spirit that still burns, even after the candles were blown out. You are the lesson, the legend, the living proof. And now is the time to live like it. To write your final chapters, not in fear, but in fire. Not with smallness, but with soul. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the part they'll remember. So go, live boldly, speak softly, love completely, and leave this world with the kind of legacy that doesn't need a statue, only a memory. A memory of someone who refused to fade and chose instead to shine.